Okay, ladies, we are on. So tonight we're talking about deliberate practice, and how we get there is as important as where we are going. So Karen, you want to start us off with an intro?
Sure. I'm Karen Ross, and I soon have a wonderful new book coming out, co-authored with Jeff Liker, called The Toyota Way to Service Excellence. And in the Toyota, thank you. And in the book, one of the topics that we deal with and concepts that we talk about really is practice and learning through doing, but not just any type of practice, because of course we can practice things correctly or we can practice things incorrectly, but really how do you deliberately practice things correctly so that you're learning skills that you can apply in the correct way. So that's me.
Awesome sauce, Leslie.
I am Leslie Hinkler, and I work at Paychex, and I've been there 10 years. And we are actually really focused on the whole idea of deliberate practice, in that we're trying to help our young learners not make mistakes in an experimental way, but to deliberately coach them in a way so that they see right from wrong and directionally move themselves in the right way. So that's kind of our new mission, or an ongoing mission, I guess. It's learning by doing, but it's really focused on giving them coaching and counsel to help them to migrate in the right direction.
All right, so we're going to definitely come back to that topic of experimentation. And I am Crystal Davis, the Lean Coach. Woo-hoo-hoo. And we came upon this topic. Karen and I were talking, and I was talking about me being intentional in trying to get back into exercising. In November, I had surgery, and so the doctor said I could start some mild exercises. And my body is like, no, I like being a couch potato. And it's so easy for us to be in lean. It's so funny. I told somebody this the other day. It's really easy for us as lean practitioners to tell other people what to do, but so difficult for us to do those things ourselves. And so I started thinking, you know what? I should put out, my goals for weight loss, how I'm going to get there, measure and monitor, make adjustments, kind of really pay attention to my body because things are new and different. And then, just make minor tweaks, follow the PDCA cycle. So since Karen brought that up, and I'll give you guys the results of my activities since last week. 0. No, that's not completely true. Not completely true. But I went home to visit family for the weekend, and it was kind of like workout and the diet took a back seat. So I'm back on it, though.
That's right? That's the PDCA part.
Exactly. I didn't think about Father's Day weekend.
There you go.
So, right. And like Crystal, I've also been working on this, and Leslie and I have known each other for many years, and Leslie has already known me through the lost 35 pounds and kept it off for a year or so the first time, gained that all back, plus another 50, lost 50 pounds, kept it off for a year or so, and then gained it all back. And really, now I thought, okay, I need to undertake this process again. I want to be healthier. I don't want to continue on like this, but I have to do something differently, right? Because obviously the times that I've been doing this before, they've worked for a certain amount of time. I had a goal. I reached the goal, right? But as soon as I reached the goal, then all excitement ended, and eventually I went back to my old habits. So what was I going to do differently? So this time I'm applying a little bit of my own deliberate practice methodology, because just as you said, Crystal, it's really easy for us to teach other people, right? But we have to apply it to ourselves. So actually, instead of having a specific weight loss goal this time, what I'm doing is I'm adding one thing a week to do to improve my health. So the goal is actually to be in the best health possible, and that improvement could have to do with exercise, it could have to do with diet, and I'm adding little by little. So each week I practice and build the habit of that one thing before I go on to next week. So the first week I decided I'm not going to eat any meat. I'm only going to have a vegetarian diet. So I got used to that. Then the second week I decided I'm not going to have any sugar in my coffee. And Leslie, how many sugars did I normally put in my coffee?
20.
The first time, 20, yes. And the first time Leslie ever saw me do this.
I was in awe.
That is crazy. When she told me that, Leslie, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Right. So basically what I'm doing is each week I'm choosing one thing deliberately and I'm practicing and I'm actually, telling someone this is what I'm doing. Please help me monitor. Hello, Lily. And then adding on the next thing. So I make the habit and I'm deliberately practicing how I want to be. And it's really much easier because in the end, the goal isn't specific, pounds, which I know I can do and I'll be happy I'll get to the goal. The idea is really just to continuously add one health improvement every week deliberately. And really, I could do that for the rest of my life.
Now, the question for me is, are you keeping the others as well? So when you did the vegetarianism, did you keep that and then add the no sugar? Or so are they making them additive, or are you replacing, or some combination?
No, it's additive. So, but instead of trying to change everything all at once,
right.
I'm starting with one thing, doing it for a week, so I have the habit of doing it.
So it's incremental.
And then I'm adding incremental. Yes. I'm adding on the next thing. And also, instead of telling myself all of the things that I'm taking away, oh, look, no 20 sugars in my coffee anymore. I'm not going to have coffee with sugar. I'm telling myself in a way of I'm adding something every week, right? It's one further improvement that I can add on the step to better health.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. Are you leaving?
Yep. So after we talked, I actually put that in practice. And I said, I was trying to do. So what happened, Leslie, a friend of mine convinced me to do this plank challenge, a 30-day plank challenge.
Oh, that is a beast. I saw that.
Okay. So you have to do the plank and you videotape yourself talking for 1 minute. And you think 1 minute, no big deal. But a plank for 1 minute, oh my God. So I did the first night. The second night, I decided I wanted to add push-ups and sit-ups and that I was going to walk 3 miles a day.
All right, that might be flagged and aggressive on day 2. On day 3, she could not get out of bed.
I threw my back out.
Oh,
no. So I thought about, I had the discussion with Karen and I was telling her about it. And so I just decided, you know what, I'm going to focus first on the plank challenge. So I started that last week. This week, I actually added back my green smoothies. So I'm back to doing green smoothies. So I do 2 green smoothies a day and have a sensible meal.
Nice.
Yep. And that's much more manageable than me trying to do all of that stuff and then having a setback. And I thought that makes so much sense. And then I also didn't think about, I was focused on a weight loss goal. And I thought, you know what, if I just stay true to adding improvement elements, the same thing that I tell people, don't focus on the result, focus on the process. Right? It's so easy to tell people to do that, and then only think about it in
absolutely
instead of thinking about it in everyday life. And it makes sense.
And lots of times we just think of the ends, and we can think about this in any of the improvement work we do with our team, right? What's the end you're going to get to? And everyone can say, okay, we want to reduce expense by 20% by this date. But we actually never think about any, or discuss, well, exactly how we're going to do that and what are the leading indicators that we're going to, check up on.
And or the trailing indicators, and we don't pay any attention to the leading ones to get us there.
That's so cool. Yes.
So and when we don't pay attention to those leading indicators, by the time we either made the goal or we didn't make the goal, but it's too late.
It's too late.
Absolutely.
And then people are frustrated. We're so frustrated. So Leslie, I had a question for you with respect to the direction that you guys are going now with coaching and mentoring and teaching your younger workforce. How are they accepting I'll say the idea or the concept of experimentation and then failing fast and failing forward? And then how does that shift your whole culture and how you guys do things?
I think that our younger people, our entry level, first and second level people are loving it because they've not had a chance or like permission to try things. And so they've had ideas but haven't felt like they had permission. We're a very safety, risk adverse culture as a general rule, right? We move other people's money. We're very cautious about what we do and how we do things. So we want to be very safe for our clients. So it's a very risk adverse culture as a general premise. But in some areas, we don't need to be risk adverse, right? The risk is low. The upside is high. And as we talk to people about giving them permission to try things and talking about this concept of experimentation, you watch people light up. Like they are flourishing in this. And we're telling them all the time, right? If you got it right, good. If you got it wrong, good, right? It's about learning. If you got it right, keep it going. If you got it wrong, start over. But the idea being that they have permission to try, right? And it's all within constraints, right? If it's going to negatively in any way, shape, or form might affect a client, well, then you don't have permission to just try it of your own volition. You got to get permission.
Right.
But if it's going to affect you and two people next to you and it's got no risk to the client, go ahead and try it. Who cares? And that's been what's been so fun about it is they really are flourishing with it and they're learning and they're loving it. So they tell stories now. I tried this. You know what? That wasn't it. And then I tried that. You know what? That wasn't it either. And then I tried this. It worked, and it's been so fun. We talk to them a lot about, like charting their data. Because everybody knows the answer. So we're like, okay, we're not going to dispute that you know the answer. All we want you to do is prove that your answer gave you what you wanted, right? So be open that there may be other answers to the problem that you're trying to solve. And so we spend a lot of time with them around charting things, right?
Okay.
How did it work? What did you find? And they're like, it wasn't it at all. And it's been so fun watching them learn. And the managers learn too, right? I knew it was this, but my person said it was going to be that. And then I let them do their thing. And by God, they were right. Like, right? So it's a real reinforcement to the frontline people. And the managers have been super about it. So it's been an awful lot of fun.
That's good.
Sorry, Crystal, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, as you were talking, my one concern was that the middle managers wouldn't necessarily feel valued because they weren't necessarily giving instruction. So I'm very, very happy to hear you say that they love it. That's good.
And it's been a bit of a stretch right there. People are in most places, right, recognized for what they know.
Yep, exactly.
But as we've started with our education, we're really starting with the leaders and the high potentials. And we're trying to get them comfortable with this idea of experimentation. Because even if they're a middle manager, it's likely they have a senior manager who believes they know the answer and the middle manager thinks they know better. So we're really trying to get their attitude around the culture shift. Like if you feel this way, right, can't you understand how this might be? And so the people who do the work every day, they have insights that we don't have because we only see the work on occasion. So being open to that and respectful to it's been really, really fun. And for me, very empowering to watch people get that.
That is great. That's great. What were you going to say, Karen?
Well, I have a question. When you're teaching people about experimentation, are you helping them to learn how to make a hypothesis? Because sometimes in the work that I've been doing, that seems to me to be a very difficult thing for people to do. We're used to kind of just doing things without stating up front, oh, this is what I actually think is going to happen, right?
Right.
So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and how you're getting folks to understand making a hypothesis, because in order to be deliberate, you actually have to in some ways set it with, okay, what do you think is going to happen? What's the end that you have, you think rightly or wrongly that's going to be in mind?
No, that's an awesome question. And what we've been trying to do and what we've been teaching them to do and we're educating them around is you have a problem statement, so you have a gap in performance, right? We do some measure and some analysis, and then we put together our improve. But when we put together what we're going to do about it, you have to say, I'm going to do X, and I'm going to do it by this date. And I believe that it's going to return 10%, 2%, 6%, whatever it is of the gap you're trying to close. So we're creating that projection so that if they've got a 10% gap and they've got a 3% plan, that's one problem to solve, right? But then even if they've got a 10% gap and they've got a 3% plan, put your plan in place. And did you get your 3%? And again, it doesn't matter if you did or you didn't. It's about knowing what you thought it was going to be and then being able to do the PDCA around whether you got what you thought you were going to and improving your ability to predict, as well as understanding that if you were right or you were wrong, it's okay unless you're like 250% wrong, and maybe not so much, but very long, you're directionally in the right area. Then it gives you your chance to add the next element. And that's been, it's really resonating.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. This is for both of you guys. So I have worked, how would you work or convince non-committal people to add the back end elements that you mentioned to hypothesis? So most people will say they want to try this and they might commit to a date, but they're so non-committal people are so afraid that if they say they're going to hit a target and they don't want to experience that failure. So how are some ways that you guys have gotten people to actually make a commitment in the hypothesis?
Well, I'm going to say that one of the great things about the work that I do is oftentimes I'm working with people and processes that I really have no idea about, right? So I can ask all kinds of questions, and I'm asking a question because I really don't know. So if I ask somebody, well, that's a great idea. What do you think is going to happen? Right? A lot of times they'll just tell me what they think is going to happen because they're like, what does she know? Right? So I'm really asking a question to learn, and then we just write down what we think is going to happen. And I'm just like, oh, that's great. Because now let's try the thing out and see if that happened or not. I don't know. I can't wait to find out. It's really, and then so people will go ahead and try it, and oftentimes I also try to take the opportunity to have them try the thing out as soon as possible and with me with them. Right. So that way they can, if they're nervous, they have me right there. But most of the time, that's the way that it works for me. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm typing note all these great statements in the sidebar, so we'll have those in the video.
Thank you. You're the bomb.
Yeah.
I will tell you that we're pretty compliant, and so if I tell them they have to have an estimate, they'll actually give me one. But what's been really fun about it is they get jazzed when they're right or they beat it, so they lowball me. I know they're lowballing me, and it's okay, right? Okay. Because again, I just want them to get the connection between we have a gap, you have an idea, and it's got to be tied to what you think it's going to happen. We got to tie that all back to data. And as long as they get that loop, I don't actually care if they lowball me. I don't care if they're right or they're wrong because it's all part of the learning. And as we keep talking about the experimentation and learning by doing, and nothing bad happens. Right?
I know.
Yeah.
That's 6% improvement. Right? Nothing bad will happen to you because we were shooting for 8, right? So as they get that kind of like that reinforcement that it's okay, and we get the leaders to participate and be excited, it's really been fun.
Yeah. And go ahead, Karen.
Well, I'm going to say a lot of times then too, once people get used to working with me, they know that I'm going to say to them, oh, what do you think is going to happen? So eventually, I use the same coaching loop and process over and over. So eventually they start asking the question by themselves, right? So before it's come out of my mouth, they say, oh, I know the next thing you're going to ask me is what do you think is going to happen?
So Karen, we're going to get you one of those bracelets where you just give people when you leave them. What would Karen ask?
I'm thinking, would that be deliberate practice?
That would be deliberate practice. Yes. Someone actually sent me a text message today and said, somebody is asking, what do you think is going to happen in a meeting?
Right, but seriously, if we consistently ask the same questions, we will, and right, everybody is somewhat Pavlovian in this, right? If every time you bring something to your boss, they poo-poo it, you're going to expect to be poo-pooed. If every time somebody brings you something or an idea, you ask them, what's this going to deliver? And then you support them through it, then they believe that's the new reality. And so the cool thing to me about the whole idea of deliberate practice is we can create our new reality simply by being consistent and predictable and repeatable in our own behaviors as we interact with these folks.
Yes, that is awesome. So awesome.
And I think that it also builds a really good habit for other people to understand about, being deliberate, because lots of times in, the business world, people seem to do things in a willy-nilly manner. Let's just throw 10 things at the wall and see what's going to stick to fix this problem, right? But we don't want them to have that behavior. We want them to learn to go about things in a very deliberate manner, use that scientific method, use PDCA, change one variable at a time, right? So they can learn. So if we follow the same process ourselves, yes, how many variables did I always want to change? Let's see, let's do 20 different things. So really, it is about being deliberate, and I don't hear that word used very often in most organizations, right? Mm-hmm. We're just going to do something willy-nilly, and if we do something willy-nilly, we just get willy-nilly results often, or we don't understand why what happened. If we do things deliberately, we have a way to figure it out.
Yep. My word is intentional.
Yep.
I always tell them, be intentional. Don't just allow things to just happen, or, think that I said, because you're going to just get what you get.
Right. Swept along by the wave.
So ladies, let's do a recap. And so what I heard tonight is that, one, in terms of thinking about our goals, we should establish a goal, but more of a principle goal than a results-driven goal. And we should start by being deliberate and practicing. And one way to simplify getting to our goal is to improve one habit at a time. And so Karen gave us a wonderful example of how she's adding one new habit a week, and then she's practicing and being very deliberate and intentional in her practice of that one thing. And then Leslie, you chimed in and said, when it comes to the practice of doing that with other people, it's so important that you give people permission to try. So in terms of being deliberate, letting them know that it's okay to try, which brought us to establishing a very good hypothesis in the beginning, and then making sure that people understand when they establish the hypothesis, they know not only what they want to do, when they want to have it done, and then what they believe that action or activity will deliver. And then the other note was, so we talked about when people are afraid to commit to a hypothesis. One way to get them to simply establish a commitment without basically asking them to commit to a hard and a firm number is to just ask them, what do they think will happen? And that kind of just allows them to free flow and offer their ideas about what they really think. And then we ended with, as coaches, we also need to be deliberate and repeatable in our practices. And that's a great way for people to learn, because eventually they will repeat those habits and questions that we exemplify as coaches. So wonderful insight, ladies. Awesome. We should be on TV. We're just awesome.
It works in personal life. It works in work life. It's a heck of a good process, is it not?
It is a wonderful, wonderful process. And I mean, I can just even say that, I've been so disciplined in focusing on just the green smoothies and the planks because I'm not overwhelmed thinking about all of the things that I need to do. And then I'm not disappointed when I'm not able to do it.
Right.
To do them also. It's been great. It works in personal life. It works in business life. Not sure about relationships yet. That may be a topic of discussion.
I think deliberate practice works in relationships too. The element of training the other person.
What they say in lean, do not try to lean your spouse or significant other. You want to create safe boundaries at home. So.
Yes, you do. But it's hard.
It is hard. So, ladies, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and we have definitely got to get back on the ball with doing our blabs and promoting them. And I actually think, honestly, this topic, deliberate practice, we could dovetail this in a number of ways when it comes to discussing lean. And I do like the fact that we also added in, personal elements.
I think I know I reflect back to that, right? I respond to that. I think others will too. So I really do think this is a great topic.
Absolutely. I do too. Thank you, Karen.
You are very welcome.
Well, ladies, so you guys have any final thoughts for our audience?
I think if they take the things that we talked about, be it green smoothies and planks or adding one element each week, right? It's getting the spirit of the intent versus the letter of the intent. Yes. That for deliberate practice, little bits intentionally, routinely.
Absolutely.
Yep. And make a prediction of what you think is going to happen, and then give it a try.
Give it a try. Nothing beats a try, right?
That's
Nothing.
it.
Butter. Good night, ladies.
Good night.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.